All right. Let's see. I believe this means we are live. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, tech fans of all shapes and sorts and sizes and persuasions, welcome to another episode of the Monday Morning Tech Chat Show on the SGGQA podcast channel. I'm Juan Carlos Bagnell, aka Some Gadget Guy, the SGG of this terrifically bad podcast name, but the QA is the important part. We like to make this a more interactive conversation. I'm already seeing an amazing group of folks in the chat ready to jump in, talk tech news, and it's why I like to hold my podcast on a Monday. We can kind of go back over the previous week, maybe some news broke over the weekend, sort out our feels, and then do a better job of keeping up with tech stories as they unfold rather than just succumbing to headline outrage. And so I'm seeing just a quick roll call. I'm seeing Twin Folk. I'm seeing Dave Burns, Greg, Barry Johnson. Let me scroll up. Otaku, Dustadore, Jimmy Fire Dragon. Jimmy is fire, and he's a fire dragon. Kappa Cash and Fat Produce. I think we've got a good crew to start. Yeah. So first of all, because we didn't get to do a best of our week. We're really trying to make that happen, and then both TK and I kind of pulled the I might be food coma through Friday. We might just want to put a Black Friday stream on hold. Dave Burns, I am the embodiment of headline outrage. I kind of feel we all are. As I was putting out links and tweets, it was like, hey man, there are a lot of bummers in the tech news today. We're gonna have a fun show. I'm feeling good. I'm feeling the energy because last week I got to unplug for a little bit. It was Thanksgiving here in the United States, so if you were inclined to celebrate the giving of thanks, I hope you had a lovely time. And I say this for every week and for every major holiday, but in earnest, even if you didn't celebrate Thanksgiving, with us Americans, I hope you still found some time to kind of unplug, to kind of get the lay of the land, to take care of yourself physically and mentally. And my wish is always that you were safe, warm, well fed, and getting to spend some time with people who care about you. And that was absolutely the Thanksgiving that my family had. We traveled for the first time to see my grandparents. Lex got to sort of see her great grandparents for the first time in over 3 years. It was kind of a special event, and so I'm feeling a little better. I'm feeling a little recharged. I'm sleep deprived like crazy because travel just messes me up these days. But the positive energy and the good feels are there, and I hope everybody over the last week got to take a moment. Even if it's a video call or an email or a text message. I don't want to sound like Bill Murray at the end of Scrooged, but just something, anything to just sort of reach out and say, hey, hope you're doing well, and to have that kind of experience come back to you. It was really lovely, and I hope more people got to share it. Greg, I appreciate it. It's okay, Juan. We understand. Man, and we had it set up, and actually I found this really great spot. We were traveling through Texas, and you're like, hey, I actually have some pretty decent network coverage here. I could probably pull this off. And both TK and I are like, let's just let this one go, man. So we have a ton of tech news to get through. A chunk of this I do, just kind of like last week's show. We spent it was a little housekeeping heavy. I kind of want to do the same thing here too. And I'm going to follow your lead here in the comments. I have a few links up. I'm not the biggest, hey, let's really game Black Friday and Cyber Monday and find those deals. And I don't know, any of the folks in this chat right now, I kind of feel a number of the folks in this chat right now likely feel simpatico that Black Friday and Cyber Monday, there are some good deals to find, but all too often this becomes an exercise in sort of price adjustments and manipulations where something looks like a great deal, but then you have to do additional website looking up to see if something really was a good deal or if it was just a price that was raised to a silly MSRP so they could act like it was a price cut. There's so much cynicism around that when you do genuinely find a couple pretty good deals, it kind of sucks some of the fun out of all of that comparison shopping and stuff. So for the gadget block, I've got it very loosely planned. I have a couple stories that we can talk about in the second half of the show, but if we want, while Cyber Monday is still a thing, we can dig in a little bit and see if there's anything fun to check out or anything fun to share. Again, if there are some genuinely good deals, let's share them. And hopefully, if someone's doing some of that shopping out there, we can save them a little cash. And then I just want to shout out Paul Purry, subscribe to Tier 1, subscribe for 24 months, currently on a 24-month streak. Paul, thank you so much. I really appreciate all the support and definitely keeping the stream the stream running. Again, that means a lot to me. So let's get this out of the way. Let's knock out some housekeeping. I just want to say a couple more people jumping in. Jojo the Techie. Everyone say, hey, Jojo. Simon says, Hypno, it's rare this year, so few actual bargains. And I kind of feel a lot of people are feeling that way. So if we want to spend some time digging up the good stuff, I'm down. I have not done a ton of research, so we'll be doing it live. Simon says Hypno saying Honor had some good deals. Fat Produce saying Amazfit. If you've been digging on Amazfit watches, I agree. I think Mobvoi also had a couple watches on sale, though their watches are regularly on sale. Dave Burns, Honey has destroyed actual deals. Oh, and everyone say Sabajo TK Bay is jumping into the chat. His ears must have been burning as I was explaining our lack of Best of Our Week podcast this week. TK and I have been chatting a little behind the scenes on what else we can do to kind of shake up some of our podcast strategy. So hopefully we can figure some stuff out because we've got some ideas that could be really fun. Yeah, so let me get this out of the way here. Okay, so doing some housekeeping. Obviously, I didn't put out a ton over the last week because I was trying to sort of shoot ahead and I was trying to write some stuff, and genuinely I kind of came to the conclusion like I need some time, and I kind of feel like techies just need some time where it's just not complete and total bombardment. I had this strategy mapped out, like I was really gonna dig in there and do like deal links and codes and affiliate links, and I kind of just didn't have it in me. I was getting to spend time with my grandparents and my aunts and uncles and my folks, and I kind of just went, you know what? I just need to be here now. And that was fine, and that was good. I probably could have made more money off of Amazon affiliate links, and I just don't know that I could be bothered. So last week on the website, the major video that I finally put out public was LumaFusion on Android, why I'm dropping Power Director. This was early access on the Patreon for several days. It was on the Patreon early for about a week. And just a pretty brutal showdown. I feel video editing on mobile is a really big deal. I think there's a most accessible tier of this when we look at services like TikTok, how every social media site on the planet, except for Mastodon, is trying to copy TikTok. To act like video editing on your phone isn't something that a humongous number of hundreds of millions of people are trying to do is just silly at this point. If you ever meet a techie who's like, but people don't do things on their phones. Power Director on Android has over 100 million downloads. They can sit down and they can shut up. So I have been a longtime Power Director user, and I took some time just to explain this one app release, getting LumaFusion on Android, is huge. I wrote an editorial about why LumaFusion was such a big deal, both from the Android perspective and from the developer perspective. And then in this video, it's a more comparative. This is why I'm having issues with Power Director. This is why I don't like Power Director's business model. And this is also why I don't really feel like Power Director's performance has kept up. LumaFusion is not optimized for Android. It's in early public beta, and it's not close how bad Power Director is getting crushed right now by LumaFusion in beta. It's not close. So that was the major video. Then on the Patreon, because these are Patreon exclusives, I finally finished. This took me so long. I've been through these cycles of like getting kind of a minor head cold and then getting shut down. There was a whole issue with sort of the Team Pixel launch strategy where they were trying to get us phones. They had to sign an embargo. Like, the strategy just didn't really feel like it gelled, and the Pixel 7 Pro kind of got shuffled around in a way that I really didn't want it to. It's one of the most important camera phone experiences of the year. And I will spoiler for my Patreon video. The conclusion is I believe this is the best point and shoot experience on any phone of 2022. I feel Google has achieved kind of a near perfect simplicity, streamlined, ease of use HDR capture. And where the Pixel camera app is stepping up is in some really interesting but still user friendly and user accessible ways. So the Pixel 7 Pro is not my favorite shooter of the year. I genuinely believe that if the vast majority of smartphone photographers could just pick up a Pixel and test drive it, it would be really hard to go back to another phone. I think it would be very difficult. It is so sublimely simple, clear conveyance, settings and controls that get out of your way, and then the rest of the video focuses on the sort of nuances of the photo capture, video capture, and the post processing. There's a lot to talk about with a Pixel when it comes to image stacking and HDR processing. So that video is about 25 minutes long. It's not my longest camera review, but also Google kind of makes it a little easier to review a camera because there are so many fewer settings to kind of dig into. Oh, Dave Burns. Oh no, we've got to consider this. But what about Samsung, Juan? They have the bestest marketing budget. I mean, camera system. They have the bestest camera system. Um, I'm gonna have to leave it to some other reviewers. Genuinely, on my desk right now, I am swarmed with phones that I'm still trying to wrap up later coverage of from launches back in October. And Samsung is fine. I feel like if you have a Note 22, you're probably in great shape. If you have an S22, I think Samsung let you down, and I don't know where that's really changed, but One UI seems to be getting mostly positive reactions. I just can't be too bothered when I pick up a OnePlus or a Vivo or a Xiaomi or a Pixel or a Moto. That's actually one I'm going to be going back to rewrite some of my experiences on the Moto Edge Plus. Not the big ultra whatever international flavor, the actual Moto we got here in the United States, because the camera is night and day different from when it launched. And it launched with some pretty serious bugs, and those bugs got fixed, and then performance got cleaned up on top of that. And Lenovo Moto Lenovo, that's one of those brands here in the United States that is eating up a large portion of LG's leftover market share. You can get a Moto Edge Plus with 512 gigs of storage. It's one of the most powerful phones of the year, and it was on sale. It still might be on sale for $500. It's just a powerhouse productivity device that you can buy for now mid-range pricing. So to ignore it is kind of silly, and not to celebrate some of the significant improvements is also kind of silly. So I'm not going to make that a full video, but I am going to reshoot some of my test samples, and I'm going to go back and I'm going to say, hey, this is what my experiences have been. Fat Produce, I still enjoy my Note 20 Ultra, but sometime next year I'll likely upgrade. Still not sure which direction to go. And that's tricky. It really is, because there are a number of really compelling premium tier devices that are out now and that then will be coming out into this next year. We're going to be talking about one of those phones in the gadget block. I was making a joke about it in the chat during the intro, where Barry Johnson and I are likely really aggressively going to be shopping one of these phones. I'm not sure if I'm going to pull the trigger on a Chinese variant of this phone, but I might, especially after how wonderful my experiences have been with the Xiaomi 12S Ultra. So the last thing that I want to highlight is a production diary post. I do these sort of rambling behind the scenes, and just sort of soft editorials on what some of my experiences have been. This last week I traveled for Thanksgiving and I didn't bring a laptop, but I brought a ton of computers. Right? I had multiple phones and a Steam Deck, and I had a laptop dock, and I had the Nreal glasses, those AR glasses from Nreal. I just put together a whole like backpack of just really cutting edge mobility computing work. Actually, I think I've got the Unreal in here right now. My Steam Deck is on the bedside table because I was maybe playing Vampire Survivors way too late last night. There's a new update on Vampire Survivors with two more um, with two more unlockables. So I had to. I mean, you know, I could have tried to get a good night's sleep for my super ultra important podcast, but instead I was playing Vampire Survivors. So the Unreal and the Steam Deck together were the hit of Thanksgiving. So I wrote up my experiences on patreon.com/somegadgetguy, traveling without a laptop, the only thing that failed, and just tried to break down these are family members that I haven't seen in a couple years. I mean, literally in almost 3 years, some of my aunts and uncles haven't. We've been keeping in touch and doing video calls and stuff like that. But it was really telling, like looking at what types of gadgets they were using, looking at whether or not they had upgraded laptops or tablets, and just it it was nice to be able to check in, not just with my family, but also just like how they were doing, what they were doing, and then getting to show them some just crazy bleeding edge stuff at the same time. Like I love showing off these photos of my folks, like my mom and my dad playing Shredder's Revenge on a Steam Deck with Nreal glasses on, and just the generational physical conditioning of how gaming is supposed to work, right? That's a heady way of saying like they didn't have any problems using the Steam Deck. The Steam Deck was super accessible. They didn't have any issues playing arcadey games. Both of my parents were kind of arcade junkies way back in the day. My mom plays games more a bit than my dad does, but it's still fun, like putting a controller in his hands and just kind of letting him go. What was funny to me was the experience of watching them do this with a wearable display. So they can sit comfortably, but both of them were holding this gaming device, so they were looking at their hands, because that's what you do. Both of my parents remember, Game Gears and Game Boys, the Atari Lynx. One of my cousins had an Atari Lynx, and my parents both like, hey, this is super cool. Portability, this is really fun. My mom plays, a bunch of games on her iPad. They're used to hold thing that games, look at thing that games, and I would have to remind them, like, you can sit back. You can stare at the ceiling if you want to rest your head. You don't have to look at where your hands are. And then it was really funny where my dad was following the sort of gameplay action. It was almost like a typewriter. So the game scrolls, and he's following the scroll, and he's watching it scroll, and then he would have to stop and reset and like come back to like sitting in his chair again. And it was really wonderful. So I'm not saying my writing is anything incredible, but sharing that as an experience, um, it was a really nice way to check in and kind of get my bearings as a techie, and realizing like so many of the conversations we have in tech YouTube are absolutely meaningless to even fairly tech savvy average consumers. Like my grandmother doesn't care a lick about processing power, but she's an octogenarian that is doing genealogy research and photo collages on an iPad. She's pretty tech savvy for a lady her age, and she's doing some fairly advanced compute work from her slate. She doesn't care about Geekbench scores. They don't help her at all. Pakostin. Yes, exactly. I make this joke in the article. I didn't bring a computer. Tons of phones and a Steam Deck. Literally the first line of this editorial. The title of this is a total tease. I don't really pack a proper x86 laptop anymore for travel, but I carry a significant amount of compute power. Absolutely, you should be calling me out on that. This is, even for my Patreon, is pretty clickbaity. From Gormlord, I wanted to ask a question about the Nreal glasses. Does a phone need video over USB-C to use them, or does it use some kind of interface powered by the phone but not actually coming from the phone? You definitely need video out. You have the choice of screen mirroring or using the Nreal custom AR UI. But if you can't get video out of the phone, there's nothing for the glasses to communicate with. So unfortunately, it won't work on a Pixel, it won't work on a Xiaomi, it won't work on any mid-ranger phone that only has a USB 2 plug. That is one of the sort of limiting factors. And on an iPhone, you need an additional battery-powered adapter to work with the HDMI output because iPhones are dumb and they don't have proper power out through the Lightning connector. So if you connect even a flash drive, like a USB thumb drive, can't use it unless you also have a USB plug that allows for Lightning power input. It's super silly. But Nreal made an adapter. It's basically just a battery puck that can power the iPhone HDMI, excuse me, so that you can run the Nreal. It was pretty great. Coppa Cash. I didn't even realize it was in the reflection of that shot. Your face seeing your folks having fun with the Nreal glasses was priceless. It was, I mean, I loved it. It's the best part of my job when I've got something really different. Like it's really bleeding edge. I've shown people, like I've shown my mom the Xiaomi. She thinks the photos look really great, but she's still on a OnePlus 6T and she doesn't really care that much. She likes getting great photos of her granddaughter, right? Watching my mom like put these on and go, oh, oh, just like, oh, I was in nerd heaven. It was so great. It really was. It was a lot of fun. Here, let me scroll down here. Simon says, no, I want to see Juan doing the magician's card spread with phones. Every time I've tried to do more than like 3 phones in a YouTube thumbnail, I'm always dangerously close to dropping a very expensive pile of consumer electronics. So the last thing that I want to do, and just kind of like we did last week, I want to spend just a minute talking social media before we get into the news block. I increasingly do not enjoy my time on Twitter. I do not like the direction the company is being run, and I feel Twitter as a company with a reputation is already dead. I don't think what exists today. There is a functional website called twitter.com. It does not represent the community or the confidence in a platform that it once used to represent. So it matters to me very little that I can go to a twitter.com and I can tweet things. It mattered to me that the platform would try to uphold some standards for citizen journalism. That's gone now. So I've been spending a lot of time on Mastodon. And Mastodon is a little more confusing to get started with. But once you do, it's really kind of a lovely implementation of classic Web 2.0 social media. It is not one singular site. It is a collection of servers that can all communicate with each other. And you create an account on one server and you still have access to the whole rest of the platform, if we're going to call it something. You have access to all of the other servers or instances. They like to say instances, but really they're just servers. And so I showed off last week how I had set up a Mastodon account, and I was, really getting it started and trying to build some following there and interacting with people. And genuinely, I think I picked the wrong server. I picked a server on artists and photographers and musicians, thinking like it would be a good place for content creators to share and to converse. And really, it wasn't that kind of artist's space. So I over the weekend, I took some time to switch servers just to see what that process was like, and it really wasn't that difficult. So now, instead of the mastodon.sdf.org, I'm now on techhub.social, and if you look up the link from my old account, it just points you to the new account, and everything has transferred over. My bio, my thumbnail, my profile picture, my banner, and then all of my social media sites and links. So I just kind of wanted to show now, if you go to techhub.social/@somegadgetguy, it's exactly the same account that I had before. And if you click on an older link that had my older account, you'll just be redirected here. So the whole notion of this server separation being difficult was actually pretty easy to get around. I've now had kind of the full Mastodon experience in getting it up and running, picking a server, realizing I'd chosen not great, and then going in a different direction to be on a different server and reaching out and interacting with people there. So, for someone who lives out of social media for my work and for what I try to where I try to host different tech discussions, I was very pleased. Again, it's not as easy as setting up a Twitter account. It's not as easy as interacting on Facebook. Actually, in some ways, I think it's easier, but it's just the terminology is confusing to someone who doesn't have any of that experience. It's very unfamiliar. But if you've ever had to manage a personal account and then like a brand page on Facebook, this is way easier and it's not a singular point of failure. So if you don't like how one server is being managed or you just want to have a different experience on another server, the only thing that's not going to follow you are your posts. But all of the people you're following and all the people who follow you are notified, hey, I'm going to switch over here. This is my new link. Nothing's going to change. Moving forward, you can just keep up with me over here. And that was cake. That was really easy. So I just wanted to kind of reiterate again, if you're not happy or if you just don't like what's going on, I think it's totally fine to kind of keep a Twitter account up and running so that you can watch the train wreck that is Elon Musk in charge of Twitter. You can watch him burn all of the credibility of this site to the ground. And you can kind of see what it ends up becoming. But at the same time, I would look at any other resources and any other platforms that help you have interactions and conversations. In the middle of this podcast, we're going to plug the subreddit, Glowing Rectangles. This is a great time to check out all of the communities that are hosting conversations on Discord servers, because that's a very similar metaphor for what Mastodon is trying to accomplish. You have a user account and people run their own servers, and you can bounce between different servers as the same user. This is very similar, only Mastodon is built a little bit more like a classic Tumblr or a classic Twitter, but it's the same thing. You signed up on one server, and if you don't like it, you can switch. You can go to a different server. I've really appreciated the welcoming. I've had a number of just really lovely and positive interactions from folks. It feels really old school tech social media, and it feels less likely that Mastodon as a umbrella service can just be swooped up by some, venture capitalist bros to try and monetize the platform. I'm on Mastodon. I'm on techhub.social, but it's just a part of Mastodon, and I'm looking at my my ad blocker. I'm looking at uBlock, and there are 0 things blocked on this page. There is no advertising. There is no user data scraping in a traditional sense. It's just a string of posts of people, a lot of people talking about Twitter, but a place just to kind of check it out. So I'm gonna do some regular check-ins and just say, hey, these are some of the experiences that I've had, because I feel like we get complacent and we get apathetic. Oh, well, Elon Musk took over Twitter and it still works. I guess you didn't need all those employees. But it doesn't really work. What Twitter is doing right now is ridiculously unsustainable. That's not what working is for social media. Just having a functional web page called twitter.com is not a functional service that protects the interests of the communities of people that use that service. And Mastodon gives us a little flexibility. So again, reach out, find these people, find these conversations. I know a lot of people are starting to sort of slow down their Twitter interactions. The last few Twitter interactions I've had have been sort of silly and frustrating and not very fun. They've all been combative. I got into another sort of Twitter conversation with folks talking about like smartphone security, and you're grossly misrepresenting how gooder the iPhone is over similarly priced Android devices, and you're doing a disservice to people having that conversation. If they're trying to educate their family and friends, you're just spouting marketing. You're not really helping to educate. Oh, it's just my opinion. Yeah, but if you're going to act like your opinion carries any weight with these audiences, are you actually earnestly joining this, or are you just sort of promoting a popular brand for the sake of reaching a larger audience of people that already prefer that popular brand. Because that's not a great look. Oh, but I just don't trust Android. How? What does that mean? That is a dumb thing to factor into someone's purchasing decision if you're trying to help them spend their money. So, here I gotta scroll back up. I'm missing a bunch of missing a bunch of comments here. Ted Talks Tech. Hey, welcome to the show, Ted. Just saying hello. Fat Produce. Have you tried much of the Linux desktop on your Steam Deck? I've actually done quite a bit. That's where I did all of that early work installing emulators. So, I might have just an old collection of NES ROMs I've had for, I don't know, a decade. So I installed that there. I had to see if it could really keep up. There's literally one game from the PS3 that I absolutely adore that really didn't get a release beyond. I mean, it's technically on the PS4, but it doesn't sound like it was a very good. I mean, it sounds like it doesn't really take advantage of the PS4, so why rebuy this game for another console that it will never live beyond that console? Literally one game and we're so close. Like PS3 emulation on a portable handheld computing device is insane. The PS3 is so hard to emulate, and the compute power of the Steam Deck is pretty close. A next generation of that idea with just a slightly newer AMD chiplet is gonna is gonna rock that for portable gaming and emulation. And then it was also like being able to go in. Obviously, I installed some silly things like I have GIMP, for photo editing on my Steam Deck. It You can kind of make an argument for bringing a portable monitor and connecting it to a Steam Deck and using it sort of like a little mini desktop. It's never going to be as convenient as a laptop, but it is a pretty powerful Linux experience, significantly more powerful than most consumer grade Chromebooks. So again, you got to trade some compromises for form factor, but you also get a dual display out of it. So you have your little window on the Steam Deck and you have your big screen on a portable display, and you can that works surprisingly well. But the other thing that worked really well was setting up Game Pass. So Xbox Game Pass through that through the desktop mode, and then linking it so that you can access it in the Steam UI version of the user interface. Really, really solid. Again, it is surprisingly capable hardware, so it's really fun. Let me get through these. Talking about some flat packs, and you guys are way ahead of me on a Linux conversation here. Fat Produce. I get so many Twitter notifications now for posts from accounts I don't follow. Again, Twitter was always a little thirsty. On my older account, I get tons of notifications like, hey, you might be interested in this. And I've muted it at all. I've just basically shut it down. On my main Some Gadget Guy account, I get so much regular interaction and traffic and reactions and replies that Twitter doesn't really serve me up stuff like I'm not following. But it's getting really gross. Again, it's just there's an angry tone to most Twitter interactions now that just really isn't fun. I like being combative and debating people and stuff, but now it's just getting like hyper gamesmanship. This is my team and your team sucks and you're stupid. And like, okay, that's bad. Oh, Dave Burns, absolutely. Mastodon giving me Tumblr and WordPress vibes. It's like looking at OLS, old school YouTube channels. Um, it is. It feels old school. It feels older. It feels less ratcheted and manipulated. There doesn't seem to be a algorithm sorting mechanism. Right? That's my biggest problem with Instagram. That's why my Instagram use plummeted, was because I hate that I can't just get a timeline view. That's not a thing here. Oh, Fat Produce saying just followed. Well, thank you. I appreciate that. Let me get this out of the way. Uh, Dave Burns, I don't trust Google as much as I don't trust Apple. See, that was a pretty good negative there. I see what you did there. That was clever. I think Dave might have seen one of the interactions that I'm talking about on social media. Oh, Gregory, it's not, I mean, again, I enjoy a good debate. Gregory says I don't debate well. I enjoy a good, like, back and forth. Like I was saying, I had a really lovely kind of exchange. I mean, it got animated, but it wasn't heated with, I can never pronounce his last name, Basil Kronfil. He took over the old Sony 365 YouTube channel and he's making it sort of a broader tech channel. And again, he's facing the ire of some like Sony bros because like there was only one major channel that focused on Sony gear. But had a really lovely exchange like at the MediaTek executive conference, just kind of throwing some ideas back and forth. And it was really fun. I mean, it really came away from that like, hey, this was a fun person to chat with. When there's the expectation, I go into this hoping that my mind can be changed. And if someone gives me bad or lazy data, then I just hit hard because it's not really worth me sitting there and listening to someone who's just going to regurgitate Apple marketing slides at me. If it's someone who kind of appreciates some of the nuance, then it's delicious. That is a really fun conversation. But I'm not going out there to just like argue with dumb people on Twitter, which is, yeah, Barry Johnson, my phone is the best, period. Like I got someone on Instagram like, look at these Geekbench scores. One, performance is just better on a Xiaomi 12S Ultra than on your Tensor. Those are just the facts. Geekbench are just the facts. And you're like, well, that's a person not worth engaging with. So I muted that individual and I'm never going to react to anything they ever do ever again because their literal existence on Instagram is a waste of oxygen in the real world and a waste of compute power and storage space in the digital world. That person is just gone. That is a non-entity. I cannot remember that individual's username. It's like Mad Men. I feel bad for you. I don't think about you at all. So anyway, that was housekeeping. 9:37 in the a.m. Just again, a friendly reminder, we have some options and we can diversify. Hey, if you don't like how Twitter compresses the poop out of your images online and has been ratcheting up video, you know, Flickr has been an amazing place to get back into for sharing high quality photos and photography. If you don't like how Twitter is managing their resources and is firing off their staff and is not complying with regulations for verifying users, there are other places to have short form microblogging conversations and interactions. We build up this momentum and we act like these are institutions. We act like they're indomitable. Twitter is the only place where Twitter could be a tweeting thing. But if you step outside that and you change your behavior just a little bit, probably be a lot happier and just find some people that are a lot more fun and interesting and less bots. Again, fewer bots to have to contend with. So, Dave Burns. The 4 kilobits used to write that message was so expensive, and they wrote that. Well, because it wasn't even just they wrote a message. They tagged me in a photo of a Geekbench score of the Xiaomi 12S Ultra. That's the most hilarious part, is because I can show you the Geekbench scores. They mean nothing. They mean literally nothing, and they grossly misrepresent real world performance when you put two apps side by side. But it was literally just this like this airing of grievances in one. You are wrong, and the performance, and these are just the facts. It's just fact. It's a fact. Again, like that person I said last week, you know, it's like, hey, I'll believe that there's a performance advantage when I see the benchmarks to back it up. Oh, you sweet summer smooth brain child. So, on that note, everything that we're going to be talking about, including my Mastodon activity, Everything for this week's show is going to be available on the show notes for this week's podcast, somegadgetguy.com, my main website. Of course, the ad-free version of this show will be on Patreon, patreon.com/somegadgetguy. And again, major thank yous to folks that have been supporting on the Twitch. I know I'm doing a co-stream on the YouTube. Just really appreciate all the chatter and sharing and support and trying to find more fun techies to join these conversations. I very much appreciate it. So let me take just a quick sip of coffee here, and I'm going to mute my mic so you don't get all the ASMR of my lip smacking. I want to sort of chew through the news block like we did last week. Couple stories to keep an eye on. Nothing that we're going to dig too deep in, but check out those show notes. Check out the links. These articles are doing a good job of kind of expanding on the conversation beyond just the headline. And I think these are important stories for us to focus on. So let me get this here. Oh, no Mega Pickle mug. Where is my Mega Pickle mug? Hold on. No, I do. Oh, here it is. It's right behind me. So I was for a really long time doing a good job of using my own merch, but I've been using them in videos, and then they get really dusty and dirty and grimy, and so I don't like washing them too much because then they don't look as nice for the videos. But I should really buy some extras. What I need to do is get a new the headphone jack mug, the endangered species mug. Looks really good in pink. Like, out of all the colors that these things look kind of fun, that mug in pink just looks sharp. So I need to buy another one of those, and what I might do is buy two. I have to buy my own merch. I get it printed per order, not buying. I don't make huge pallets of this stuff and send it out myself. But then I can have one for the show and then one for videos that looks really sharp. Sorry. Let me get this out of the way. Paul Purry, my iPhone has the Geekbench and it tells me my phone is a rocket ship. Kapow! Yes, your iPhone is great until you render a video and then a Pixel 7 Pro absolutely crushes it. Paul, I'm not, Paul, I'm just being poopy because I really don't like how we talk about this stuff. So, let me get this queued up here. Oh, whoa. The web page just got real weird. Hold on, I'm gonna refresh. Because unfortunately, I saw this first and I pulled it from an MSN link, and now the link is kind of broken. This is bad. Okay, but we're still going to talk about this. There's been some dramatic upheaval at Disney. Disney is one of these mega sources of entertainment, right? They've kind of, like an amoeba, swallowed up all of the TV and movies, right? So we caught a changing of the guard, and it seems like there were some shenanigans happening with the reporting on expenses and profits. And so this story was from CBR. Bob Chapek shifted budgets to disguise Disney Plus's massive monetary losses. And I love that in the title of this is Bob shifted budgets, because if you're a shareholder at Disney, that sounds a lot like fraud. Now, I'm not saying it's fraud because Disney has an army of lawyers that could sue me into oblivion without breaking a sweat. Like, they have an intern in their legal department that could file all the paperwork, and then I would just cease to exist and I would be bankrupted. So I'm not saying that Disney created fraud to make Disney Plus look like a better monetary venture than it turned out to be. But what I'm saying is, if I were invested in Disney, I think I would be very concerned about the reporting of financials and the accounting. So, this is a biggie. There needs to not only be an internal investigation, but there needs to be a public accounting and probably some regulatory oversight over how Disney has been acquiring other studios, how Disney has been reporting their expenses and their losses and their profits, and then sort of a meeting of the minds with shareholders to say this probably hasn't been maintained well legally. I'm trying to dance all around this. Simon says no. Again, one might say misleading accounting. Hollywood is rife for that kind of bookkeeping, but after a point, even Hollywood bookkeeping has to be picked apart and re-examined. From Pakistan. We'll wait for Boxing Day to grab a Blu-ray reader and get the old classics on the NOS. Double points for avoiding buying Disney's movies new, just to be extra sure it won't be tampered with. Again, it's a bummer. If I talk about this, it technically is a violation of the DMCA to circumvent copy protection on things like Blu-rays. But again, in that shelf, you can see the out of focus doggy right above my head. Behind them is a growing stack of Blu-rays. I'm buying these movies in formats that I feel will last longer, and I don't have to worry about whether or not they're going to disappear from one catalog or show up in another catalog. If I genuinely, truly love these movies, I am making my own backups for my own personal use on my own home networking equipment, which is not shared on any type of file sharing service. I'm using Plex as a front end, and I'm holding on to these movies. Seriously, like some of them have been really hard to get a hold of, like getting a DVD of 7 Days in May, like old Frankenheimer films. Brilliant, brilliant cinema. Actually, 7 Days in May is very prescient because it's a movie about an attempted coup from the military against the president of the United States. Not like we haven't lived through some history very similar to that Frankenheimer film. But no, I'm going through and I want to protect these movies. Seconds with Rock Hudson, really difficult to find a good copy of that for a long time. So I'm kind of, you know, playing some of those games too. Uh, it's a Mickey Mouse operation. Gary, that was dirty and I loved it. Oh, Paul Purry, wait, Juan does not make the mugs by hand each night, slaving over a hot kiln? Shocked. I am shocked, I tell you. And Kabakash, I am sorry to hear that. iOS 16 is terrible on my daughter's iPhone 12 Pro. She hates the battery life she's getting. I've been saying it a lot over this last year, but Apple did iPhone users dirty with the iPhone 12s. Inadequate battery capacity and then 5G on top of that with an SoC that ran hotter. Sustained performance on the iPhone 12 was worse than the iPhone 11. So we're sitting here and we're moaning and crying about Android devices with an 8 Gen 1 that throttled, and we completely let Apple off the hook. The iPhone 11 was a better sustained performing chip than the iPhone 12. And the iPhone 12 lumped 5G on top of it. If you can, while the iPhone 12 still have some consumer retail value, that is one I would highly recommend trading in. Trade in the iPhone 12 Pro, see if you can jump to an iPhone 14 Pro or even an iPhone 13 Pro would be much better battery. And we all know Apple software updates are not great all the time for older devices. Yes, you get those updates for years, but Apple also has a terrible track record of properly supporting those older phones. You get the update, you don't get all the new fun features, and you probably suffer worse performance for getting the update. It just seems to be a fun little way that they encourage updating sooner than you need to. So I'm sad to hear that, but if you can move her over to a 13 Pro, it would be worth it. That extra battery is definitely a good perk. And Geet Madden, absolutely. If battery life is the concern, the iPhone 13 Pro has better battery performance than the 14 Pro. Almost seems like SoC design isn't just a magical win for Apple anymore. Just seems to be that. I don't know. It's kind of like marketing. So, moving right along. Man, I spent way too much time on that last story. This one I'm of two minds of because I feel we need regulatory action and we need regulatory oversight, and I feel we need some very serious reform to the Communications Decency Act for how social media sites can sort of be a publisher and also be just sort of a distribution point. But it also makes me anxious. We need to pay attention to how politicians get involved with communication dissemination private services, right? There is no First Amendment protection for a private company. Something like Twitter does not live in a free speech zone because they are a private company and every user signs a licensing agreement to use that platform. So, Senator Markey calls for an end to failed big tech self-regulation following Musk letter snub. This is from Engadget, written up by Igor Bonifacek. I've mispronounced your name, and I apologize. From Ed Markey, Elon Musk could respond to my tweets, but failed to respond to my letter by yesterday's deadline and answer basic questions about Twitter verification. Congress must end the era of failed big tech self-regulation and pass laws that put user safety over the whims of billionaires. So here's the deal. I completely agree with this sentiment. I am for it. I am for a closer examination of the monster media services business practices. Man, do we need to be careful when senators and Congress are getting involved in this kind of lawmaking. These laws are broadswords. They are huge weapons that can be wielded very clumsily in the wrong hands. What we need are scalpel-like nuanced examinations of 21st century business practices. And that's a lot harder to dig into. So again, Engadget has a great write-up just kind of following the timeline on this interaction between Musk and Senator Markey. And this is definitely one we need to keep a close eye on. I would highly appreciate anyone who's kind of in this chat right now, take a minute to look over this story and then also write a direct letter or email to your local elected officials. Share your thoughts. We provide them so little guidance and they're only going to hear from the people that directly contribute to their campaigns. So we can change some opinions with staff members at these offices if we contribute. If we don't, then the only thing they're going to hear they're only going to hear from lobbyists with way more money to spend. So, it's worth it. It's worth it to get involved and to participate and to guide some of the conversations around this thing, because I don't think any of us are happy with the way that Twitter is handling things like verification. Another sort of social media fallout story here is coming by way of Meta. So this is written up by independent.ie out of Dublin, written up by Adrian Weckler at independent.ie. Meta fined 265 million euro in Facebook data scraping case that exposed millions of mobile phone numbers. So this was another really bad look, and I believe this brings... Oh yeah, it's right here in the secondary line. The fine means that Meta's accumulated penalties from Ireland's Data Protection Commissioner are approaching 1 billion euro within the last 18 months. And you know what? It needs to be higher. Meta is not doing a great job of handling our personal data, and other tech companies need to see the fallout of that. Because moving right into our last news block story, this is from Bleeping Computer, written up by Lawrence Abrams. 5.4 million Twitter users, stolen data leaked online, and more shared privately. So there was a vulnerability in January of this year that exposed 5.4 million Twitter accounts publicly. Like, you can just go get the data dump. And beyond that, there are many, many more people that were affected privately. And again, very little, sort of almost no disclosure from Twitter. Again, more recently under sort of Musk's tutelage, we've been seeing even more gaps and holes in Twitter security. Now would be a really good time for someone to take sort of a targeted attack on Twitter, because they don't have the staff to kind of keep the platform rolling well. This is another really big deal. Our major monster social media networks are letting us down. They aren't being safe. And we have the illusion of security when we listen to like Apple marketing, right? Oh, iPhones, Macs don't get viruses. But you're going to install apps on that phone, and then those apps are going to leak like crazy when the platforms themselves can't back up their security obligations. We need much more brutal and punitive measures to discourage these kinds of lazy business practices if you're going to traffic in user data. So it's frustrating because there's the apathy like, oh, another social media exploit. Yeah, that shouldn't be the case. We should have a new crop of younger politicians and lawmakers saying, hey, that's bad. let's let's make sure they feel it at Twitter. Let's make sure they feel it at Facebook. If Facebook is profiting like billions of dollars a year off their advertising scheme and they get hit with a fine for $200 million, that's basically just a tax, like a tiny little tax on their revenue. They'll swallow it up. I mean, they'll make a big show of, oh yeah, we've really learned our lesson this time. But then, the business practice is still netting them billions of dollars. Why would they work too hard to change? Future EU regulations are going to start applying fines to the tune of something like 4 to 5% of yearly revenue. And now we're talking about some serious money. That needs to happen in the United States. That needs to happen in North America in general. That needs to happen in South America. Hey, if every country on the planet who is wronged by lazy and lax security policy at Twitter and Facebook started cutting like, hey, your fine is going to be 5% of your yearly revenue. Hey, your fine is going to be 3% of your yearly revenue multiplied by every country on the planet. I feel like Facebook would button up really quick. I feel like, oh, they'd feel that. Yeah, tech Jojo. Absolutely. They're getting away with it. It's just a slap on the wrist. And they're not even going to feel it's like that. Oh no, we got a bad headline. Keep using Facebook, I guess. It's not going to touch them at all. But if 20 countries each pulled 3 to 5% of Facebook's yearly revenue as a fine, well, that would be a lot more noticeable. Raj, there haven't been, but this is a move that's gaining a lot of support and a lot of popularity in the EU. Has there ever been a percentage fine in cases of corporate negligence? And I feel like the perfect place to start is with social media companies. And then once we see if that gains any traction, then we could maybe start applying that to things like Ticketmaster or automobile manufacturers or farming equipment. If we start to see that kind of malfeasance, we'll have a precedent with the tech stuff that we could then apply to other industries that probably need similar reform. So it's Simon says no. They just raised the price on our data. Good. Let that also hurt their advertisers and the people that that do business with their platforms too. Again, it's gonna get messy, but we might as well rip off that Band-Aid now. It's so stupid. Aditya, notice how the data leak happened before our Lord and Savior Elon purchased the platform. His new, leaner, meaner, more efficient team will ensure that your data is kept private and safe. Yeah, I'm sure that's exactly how that's gonna work. Jay Severino, I've heard of a few people saying something like this. Um, I feel like our current branches of. Oh, sorry. Let me just read. Excuse me. Let me just read the comment here. What are your thoughts on a fourth branch of government that regulates technology and works like judicial branch and is being run by individuals who know about technology? So unfortunately, here in the United States, it's not really how our government is structured or functioned. The fourth estate should be journalists, and we should be doing a much better job of educating the population so that they can act as a check and balance against elected officials, and then our elected officials can act as a check and balance against activist judges. That's the system I want. I don't want to try and create a a recognized branch of United States government that functions as a regulatory body in the same capacity that Congress, the president, and the judges operate. Because I feel that is now more opportunity for regulatory abuse. But unfortunately, in the short term, I don't believe that mega corporations owning all of our media outlets are really getting the job done. So it's up to citizens, unfortunately, to start a true grassroots conversation with elected officials to say, this is influencing my voting behavior, and I will be advocating for people who support these types of initiatives. And if you're not one of those people, then I will be supporting, challengers to your Senate or House of Representatives seat. I feel like that's probably the best way to start. Again, a fourth branch of government to enshrine that and to properly empower it and to have it cooperate with judges and senators and the president, I don't think works. So it's a very complicated structure, and pulling on one thread of that structure can cause numerous unforeseen issues. Maryland, no one would vote for me. I am completely unelectable. Juan, when are you running for Congress? That's not a thing. But I would love to advise. I've done just like a little like kind of back and forth. I've had conversations with congressional members. I have some family who's a little bit deeper into the political game, both on the lobbying side, on the union side, and then in state governments. It's something I'm definitely, obviously, I run a tech politics podcast, but I also kind of have to recognize in myself that I'm way too much of a jerk to be really properly electable. I'll get into a debate and be like, well, that's stupid. This guy's stupid. You don't really want that energy publicly. I don't know that I'd be able to contain myself. So, Mr. Bagnall, what do you have to say about what your opponent's response? That's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. That guy's an idiot. I'm not the guy to go walking around shaking hands and kissing babies, man. I would love to be the guy that whispers into a politician's ear, like, this would be better for people, this would be better for your fundraising, find a balance between the two, and see if we can make everybody, a bit happier. Jojo, but I don't want that to be the case. Hey, some other guy got elected by insulting people and minorities, so you got a chance on. So, but I know of me that I aspire to a more practical and productive tone of political conversation, and I know that that's an increasingly unpopular or unrecognized kind of stance in political discourse right now. But it doesn't mean that I won't fight to get that back, even though I know myself personally. I don't always contribute to the highest or loftiest conversation. Pakistan, that guy's an idiot. 1,000 likes. Yes, see, Dave Burns. I completely agree. Good compromise makes everyone uncomfortable. My uncle did a lot of sort of union work before he retired. And it's like, again, everyone should leave the table kind of pissed off in a good negotiation. No one should leave the table feeling like they did get everything that they wanted. So that wraps us up for the news block, and I kind of wanted to get us back on track here at 10 o'clock here in the AM. So just a quick shout out for the subreddit. Every podcast has a subreddit. My subreddit is not focused on my show specifically, but if you go to reddit.com/r/glowing rectangles, you'll see that the #1 post of the last week was last week's show. Android 13 on OnePlus, Snapdragon 8 Gen 2, Mastodon rises, Ticketmaster meltdown, some gadget guy. #2 spot was my video on LumaFusion and why I'm dropping Power Director. And then coming in #3, my buddy Joshua Vergara, Nothing Ear Stick, what worked and what didn't. Rounding out our top 5, we got 2 other really great posts. An editorial from morethanjustaphone.wordpress.com. Use your phone as a personal library with ebooks. This is a great post that again, it's a conversation that I don't feel we have properly joined in the tech space. if you're a nerd like me and talking about the technology is entertaining, I think we've lost a number of consumers because we aren't really showing them the wider breadth of things that they can do with their technology. And one of the critical things, I keep showing people this stuff like, hey, you're struggling or you're having some hard times financially, or some of these things are starting to hit your wallet a little bit harder. You can link your phone to your local library and get a surprising amount of entertainment for free without having to like torrent things or file share or any of this other stuff. Like, your library is kind of the best Netflix you never knew existed. So again, having those types of editorials and those kinds of conversations are critical right now, especially as we get through the holidays, man. Getting through the holidays is always tough on everybody's finances. And then rounding out the top 5 from Ryan Thomas, are Pixels finally better than iPhones? Just doing a little comparison here between a Pixel and an iPhone Pro. Some really great stuff on the subreddit this week. Obviously, nothing got some coverage with their new ear sticks, but El Jefe Reviews in the top 10, talking about the best true wireless earbuds in 2022. So if you want a good roundup on Bluetooth earbuds, definitely check him out. We've got Gary Explains looking at the benchmarks on the Snapdragon 8 Gen 2. I don't really put any faith in synthetic benchmarks, but someone who can properly explain, Gary explains properly some of those architectural differences between different SoCs. He is absolutely a voice that I would trust. And then we also had a great video shared from Hugh Jeffries trying to figure out a way that you might be able to do a better battery replacement on an iPhone, and it doesn't really work. But it just shows the kinds of hoops you need to jump through if you're going to live in the Apple ecosystem and still want to have good third-party support. So like, he's trying to solder parts off one battery onto another battery just to get the iPhone to recognize a proper Apple official battery cell. And it's insane. It's insane what people are trying to do to keep their phones running longer when they don't have access to good support. So reddit.com/r/glowing rectangles. It's a great community, and it really is continuing to provide a broader look at the tech conversations out there than just whatever the YouTube algorithm is going to ratchet up and shove in your face. It's a theme of all of the podcasts recently. You can be apathetic and just continue doing the same thing on the same social media platforms and complaining, or you can take a few steps out of your comfort zone and get treated, like deliciously served, a much more colorful meal of different kinds of tech conversations and different types of consumer conversations about tech. So reddit.com/r/glowing rectangles. And now I'm gonna take a drink of water and just try and kind of clear my throat here. 1 second. This is gonna sound gross and you won't have to listen to it. Soar Hunter, no one is as nerdy as Juan, who takes 4 phones to a family meeting, plus a Steam Deck and a laptop dock. Yeah. See, but I did all that, and I got to have a Tetris showdown with my mom, and my mom, my dad, and my daughter got to play Shredder's Revenge on a nice, bigger screen. All of the things that I'm preaching, I'm actually practicing. So I like to show that off. It's not like I'm saying like, hey, Android phones are really neat and they can do things, and then I just go home and use like an iPhone for all my stuff. Like, no, no, no. If I say, hey, I've got AR glasses that can simulate a large screen television and I can plug them into a Steam Deck, when I'm on an airplane, I'm using these awesome glasses and I'm kicked back in my seat, my head's all comfy, I've got a controller right in front of me, and I have a giant widescreen view. I mean, it's a Vampire Survivor, so we should definitely make fun of my tastes in gaming, but I'm really doing it because it's amazing. And it's the best part of my job when I get to take these off my face and put them on a relative's face, and they don't need to do anything. It's not like they need to like jump through a bunch of hoops or install apps. They just get to see this in operation, and it works beautifully, and it does exactly what it claims to do, and it makes me so happy. It's such a fun experience to be able to share that. Simon says, "Hypno, oh look, it's Elton Juan." Oh, that's great. Again, I can't sing any Elton John songs to, like, oh, thing with the rocket guy, because I'll get demonetized. Oh, that's bad. All right, so we do have just two quick links that I want to share. We don't have to spend a lot of time on one of them, but the second one we're gonna have to dig into just a little bit. El Jefe Reviews subscribed to Tier 1. They've subscribed for 40 months. His morning meeting is over, and he's jumping in. Oh, Simon says, Hypno, hold me close, so Tony Danza. And I just got demonetized. But thank you, Jeff, for jumping in. I mean, your ears must have been burning because we were just saying some nice things about your earbud roundup, which was voted very highly on reddit.com/r/glowing rectangles. Thanks for jumping in, man. I really appreciate it. Okay, so just a quick little news nugget in terms of smartphone sales. This is a government that has said, hey, don't do this. We want you to do business with our citizens in a specific way. The company refused. And now, if you're in Brazil, Brazilian regulators seize iPhones from retail stores as Apple fails to comply with charger requirement. In Brazil, they mandated you will include a charger with the phones that you sell in Brazil. This is the right move. As we shift from rectangular USB-A ports to more ovally USB-C ports, as we support different battery charging standards on newer phones that aren't really compatible with older phones, or older chargers can't properly support these new standards, I think it is a bad play for the consumer. It is more confusing for the consumer, and it ends up being a poorer experience that can sometimes damage the devices of these consumers. I don't care if it's necessarily in the box, but if you're going to tell me that it's an environmental concern and that you're creating less e-waste and less packaging waste, then include the appropriate charger for that standard in a little brown paper bag. Put the marketing materials and the regulatory materials. You have to have that little booklet that explains how the charger works and what the safety considerations are. Make it the most biodegradable paper you can. Put it in a brown paper bag with a barcode printed in vegan ink. Put that all together and just include it with the phone purchase. You go to apple.com and you buy an iPhone, there should be a check mark. Do you need a charger? And you check it, and then it shows up with your phone in a little brown paper bag. If I believed Apple cared one iota about the environment, I would expect those types of business moves. So Apple said, hey, we don't want to do that. We don't want to include a charger with the phone. So Brazil did the right thing. They are removing iPhones from store shelves so that consumers can't buy them because they're not complying with this regulatory action. This is how you regulate. I would love to see that kind of blunt force. You didn't follow the rules. Now here's, F around and find out. Apple is now in the find out stage of their business dealings in Brazil. Kudos. Absolutely great. They didn't kowtow to Apple marketing and Apple lobbying and the enormous amount of money that Apple can just dump into these conversations for politicians. They set a rule, and then they followed the rule. Everyone else now needs to look at Brazil, of all places, and say, yeah, no, that was the right thing to do. And it probably upset people. But if people are upset, they should also take out their frustrations on Apple, because it's a good time to maybe consider alternatives to that business practice and companies that are willing to do business with the rules that have been set out by the local government. It's not just a slap on the wrist, it is a much more direct action to enforce proper business relationships with customers. Yeah, Sore Hunter, finally, after being slapped on several regulations, finally, after being slapped on several regions and then being requested to comply with the law by the Brazilian Supreme Court while Apple's still ignoring all, I commend the authorities in Brazil. It's the correct play, and we're gonna have to make a few people a little uncomfortable and kind of make some of these business actions a little more painful. It's the only way that we're gonna affect any kind of positive change. Yeah, Dave Burns. Apple has FA'd and now they're FO'd. FAFO is becoming one of my favorite little internet abbreviations that I won't actually spell out properly to keep my podcast at least somewhat PG. I'm only technically allowed one F bomb for PG-13, but I'm trying to keep the discussion a little friendlier than that. The other news, the story that I wanted to really highlight, really showcase here in the gadget block. I've got a trio of phones here on my desk. Three of my favorite phones of 2022. Starting the year off incredibly strong was the Vivo X80 Pro. Then also going hands-on with the iQOO 9 Pro and the iQOO 9T. Just brilliant. I mean, what BBK, this part's been, I've enjoyed FunTouch as the software, but some of the most bleeding edge camera and processing capabilities I've ever seen in a phone. And while I like OnePlus, I think OnePlus is still doing a fine job here in the United States. And last week we checked out Android 13, the new animation engine on the OnePlus 10 Pro is gorgeous. It really is pretty navigating that UI, but the combo of hardware and performance definitely been on the Vivo side. I really like what Vivo's been doing. So you can imagine how excited I am to see properly that the world's first Snapdragon 8 Gen 2 phone is the Vivo X90 Pro Plus. This is coming by way of Ron Amadeo at Ars Technica, and this looks like it's going to be a really pretty phone. So I've been spending the last several months, my main Android shooter has been the Xiaomi 12S Ultra. The main sensor on the Xiaomi 12S Ultra is that new Sony-built 1-inch type sensor, and it's technically even just a tiny touch bigger than a traditional 1-inch sensor. It is ever so slightly larger than Super 16 millimeter film. The depth of field off of that camera directly resembles shooting on a 24 millimeter lens on a full frame camera at f5. It is stunning phone photography. I shared one of my butterfly pictures from that phone on Mastodon this morning. It is gorgeous. I mean, I just want to show something really silly. So, like from my travel blog, when I show this photo of my mom on the Steam Deck, and you see like it's focused on her face, and her hands are already kind of falling out of focus. You can see me really blurry in the background. She is separated from this window that is just like a foot behind her. That kind of depth of field, that kind of image clarity, that kind of sharpness, pixel level detail, processing, everything is stunning. That sensor is an absolute monster and could completely change the sort of camcorder game, the bridge camera game. Put this sensor into like a fixed lens super zoom camera body. It is amazing. And it's built for phones first, but it's an incredible sensor that could be leveraged in any other type of photographic action camera, drone photography. I want to see this 989. It's the IMX 989 from Sony. I want to see it all over the place, but it's going to have a home in phones. And so now getting this in a Vivo means we're going to see another, this is our 4th generation of Zeiss collaboration. Zeiss optics, great lens coatings to reduce flaring. And then it should also be coming with a coprocessor. And this is one of the things that Vivo is exceptionally good at, is processing image data, especially for HDR and low light photography. It is shockingly fast. So if you pick up a Vivo X80 and you really burst, like you just kind of keep tapping that shutter button, it is demonstrably faster at clearing its processing buffer than a Pixel. A Pixel, you'll get about 4 or 5 snaps back to back to back to back to back, and then it shuts the camera off as it's trying to chew up all of that data in the background. The V1 is able to clear out that significantly faster, and you're never really shut off like you are on a Pixel. It's like magic. And so then it's also responsible for that really crazy bright night mode. So on its own, it's probably too bright. It turns your nighttime photos into daytime shots, and it processes that image. It captures and processes that image in a third the time that a Pixel 7 is going to do that same kind of image scan, but you end up with a brighter shot at the end of it. That's crazy. So then you can, if you want a darker nighttime shot, but you want it to be cleaner with less noise, it's insane. And then also Super RAW has just been a huge feature. So the X80 Pro has the really good Samsung GN1. That's a 1/1.3 inch type sensor. Going to a Vivo with this V processor and combining that with a 1-inch type sensor is going to be insane. I cannot wait. So this phone is going to be launching first in China. So according to Ars Technica here, the phone's going to be coming out in China on December 6th for about $900. That's the starting price. But the starting price is going to include 12 gigs of RAM, 256 gigs of storage, 80-watt fast charging, the incredible Qualcomm 3D Sonic Max in-display fingerprint sensor. It's the biggest fingerprint sensor on any phone currently used, and I believe Vivo is still the only company that's used it. And then it's going to have the quartet of cameras. That really makes a Vivo fun to shoot on. The big 1-inch sensor is the main sensor, a 50 megapixel portrait, a 48 megapixel ultra wide, and then a slightly shorter 64 megapixel telephoto. So I think they're going to be going with a larger telephoto sensor than what's the X80. And I would say that's the weakest spot of using the X80. The wide angle is great. The main sensor is brilliant. The portrait sensor is very good. And then the telephoto is kind of super weak. So if they're going to a higher resolution telephoto and it has less reach, but it's better image quality, I'm here for that. That to me is a happy trade-off. You give me like 3.5 times zoom to 4 times zoom like we had on the Pixel 7 or the Pixel 6 Pro. Pixel 6 Pro had 4x zoom. Then the Vivo is going to be brilliant. It's going to be awesome. I'm so stinking excited to see Vivo image processing on these newer, larger, and more pixel-dense camera sensors. Oh, I can't wait. And then I'm just, fingers crossed that the Snapdragon 8 Gen 2 really is a performance improvement over the 8 Gen 1 to the degree that Qualcomm is advertising it. Because then we should hopefully have better performance for 4K video. We should have better, even faster image processing, and also some slightly better maintained frame rates for gaming. The 8 Gen 1 is incredibly powerful, but it's also really thermally challenged for that sustained performance. So I'm super stoked. J-Man, hey, did you hear the leaks and rumors that there could be 5 iQOO 11 models? I did not, but I wouldn't be surprised because there was the iQOO 9 Pro. I believe there was an iQOO 9. Then in China, there were 2 variants of the iQOO 10. And then there was later the iQOO 9T with the Snapdragon 8 Plus Gen 1. So I wouldn't be surprised if over 2023 there were 4 or 5 different variations of the iQOO 11. And I bet you there will be an iQOO 12 in China before the end of the year, which is basically an iQOO 11, but with like a different sort of layout of camera sensors or something like that. So I'm what Vivo and iQOO are doing, it's some of my favorite smartphone design. And it works a little bit better here in the United States. My Vivos have performed well on United States LTE. They're not getting proper 5G support in any of the regions in my neighborhood where I can test 5G performance or UC performance on T-Mobile. But much better than my Xiaomi 12S Ultra, which has very, very poor support for United States networks. Um, oh, Simon says Hypno. I'd love to see a show. Oh, there he goes. I'd love a go on the Honor Magic VS, which is their foldable, right? I'm still not as much into foldables because you have to sacrifice on camera quality. And once you go mega sensor phone, man, it's real hard to go back. Like when a Pixel 7 Pro is now feeling like a normal photography experience against a Xiaomi 12S Ultra, that's mind blowing how good phone photography has gotten. From Jay Severino, have you seen the pictures shared by Ice Universe of the Vivo X90 Pro Plus? I haven't, but we can also just real quick while we're going through some of these comments. This is just like the main. This is what I used in the thumbnail from Ars Technica. We're seeing kind of a banded and leatherback, a vegan leather rear for the X90 Pro Plus. Again, something that they've been doing on certain models of the Vivo, and then also something I really love on the Xiaomi 12S Ultra. It looks like a very traditional sort of smartphone arrangement. We're gonna have to use a larger camera dial. There's a big circled chunk on the back of the phone, and when you have that 1-inch sensor, you need more depth to really build a good lens into that assembly. You need to give it some space. So I'm imagining that this camera lump is going to be probably as big as the camera lump on the back of the Xiaomi. Yeah, I mean, when you see this photo, it's like the camera lump by itself is thicker than like half of a Surface Duo. Like an entire phone thickness is almost on the back of this phone, and we're gonna have to see what cases we can find that can better protect that rear glass. But that image sensor is just insane. I can't say enough nice things about it, and it really is. If you've ever shot film, or if you've ever shot like 16 millimeter for movie footage, having that in your pocket, you have a 16 millimeter camera in your pocket. That's just crazy. It really is just unbelievable image processing hardware. Fat Produce, yeah, I was just saying, how well do Vivo devices work on North American carriers? I've had good experiences on T-Mobile LTE. Like they've worked well, and I've gotten good messaging support. I know the X80 Pro had some really funky fun touch issues with MMS. They've been sort of sorted out, and I haven't had any of those issues on my iQOOs. So I don't know what might be different in Fun Touch for Vivo versus Fun Touch for iQOO, but those little operational differences, I didn't have as many issues on my iQOO 9 Pro. And recently, especially with these updates, because running Android 13, they've been running surprisingly well. Simon says, no, I think the Xiaomi 13 or 14 Pro is meant to have a 1-inch sensor too. I would be very surprised if it didn't. The Xiaomi 12S Ultra, I believe, was supposed to have an international launch. And when we got to the end of 2022 and smartphone sales were kind of lagging and the costs of bringing out phones to different regions, especially with some of the performance issues that the 8 Gen 1 had at the beginning of the year, I totally appreciate why Vivo and Xiaomi specifically decided to, well, Vivo, I believe, canceled what would have been an X80 variant with the 8 Plus Gen 1, and Xiaomi drastically limited the launch of the Xiaomi 12S Ultra. Now getting into 2023, it makes a lot of sense to me that they would move just to the next generation. Don't try and futz with the X80 branding, just move directly to the X90, include these updates, include these improvements, the newer SoC from Qualcomm, all of those engineering costs, and that's a good reason to include all of this crazy camera tech into the next phone. Let me see. Sore Hunter, let me join your family chorus. Give me better battery life improvements with the new chip, please. So, I believe the Snapdragon 8 Gen 2 is going to perform very similarly to the 8 Plus Gen 1, which at heavy load, at heavy use, is around a 30% performance per watt improvement over the 8 Gen 1. So, that I think is that I think is the sort of transition. I don't think the 8 Gen 2 is going to be a radical difference from the 8 Plus Gen 1. I think it's going to be a much more modest improvement over the 8 Plus, and that's fine. The 8 Plus Gen 1 is a very good chip. Just maybe like a 10% bump to CPU scores and maybe a 10 to 15% improvement in sort of heavy lifting GPU battery draw. That's great. Do that. Give us that. Again, we're talking about the Lamborghinis of the smartphone world. We're talking about phones that are going to retail for $900 and up. And as soon as you start hitting that premium tier, I am happy to trade some of my battery life performance for devices that are genuinely capable of outpacing laptops in direct head to head computing tasks. Rendering video on your phone can often crush rendering video on a decently specced out laptop. And sometimes like it's not close. I've been reviewing like little small form factor PCs, x86 computing components. I've got an MSI, a creator laptop down here. I just got it in the mail. I'm going to be breaking it out. I mean, I can show it to you guys real quick. I I haven't done anything with it yet or set it up yet at all. I had to really carefully look over it. But we're talking about a Core i9 and an RTX. What is in this? Is it an RTX 3070? I believe. It just says RTX Studio. I wish it would tell me what it was on the outside. But this thing is going to be a monster. I'm willing to bet very good money that if I put this gorgeous example of a creator based powerhouse laptop up against my Pixel 7 Pro, that we're going to see very close performance in rendering high quality 4K video. Anyone want to take a bet on that? Do we think there's going to be within a 5% delta of rendering the same projects in DaVinci Resolve with GPU compute against an $800 Google Pixel 7 Pro? Anyone? Anyone want to take me up on that? We'll put some cash in escrow. I'll throw like what, like $100, something like that. Someone wanna race me on that? I'm all about not gambling. So yeah. So Jay Severino, if this is true, Vivo has an IMX 989 with an f1.7 aperture. How would I do the math on that? I might actually have a spreadsheet that we can pull up because that's going to be an even faster aperture. So the aperture on the Xiaomi S12s Ultra is f1.9. So let me see, where is my calculator? So it's the crop factor on, what is the Xiaomi? Oh, I'd have to pull up all the Xiaomi stats. I can do that real quick. And I'm sorry, this is terrible podcasting, but now I got to know if that aperture is f1.7, because that is a pretty quick aperture. Pictures and scroll down to August. Sorry, this is terrible. I love it, but I got to know now. Now I'm just dying to know. As my podcast just grinds to a halt. And I think that'll work. So what is the actual resolution? 4096 3072. What is the pixel size? Well, Firefox automatically will pull up. So as soon as I start typing GSM Arena, one of the searches is GSM Arena Xiaomi 12s Ultra. So the pixel size is roughly 3.3 at that 12 megapixel image. So the crop factor is 2.56. So if I pull up f1.7 by 2.56, 1.75 times 2.56. The equivalent aperture of the Vivo would be around f4.5. So a kit lens is usually like f2.8 to f3.5. The Xiaomi looks like a full frame camera at f5. This Vivo will look like a full frame camera at f4.5. That's ridiculous from a phone. Go take a full frame camera, a full frame Sony camera, $2,000 camera body, put a 24 millimeter lens on the front of it, stop that lens down to f4.5, and you will see a stunning depth of field, which is incredible for street level portrait photography. It looks awesome. And that's what's going to be built into a phone that fits in your pocket, that significantly outperforms my Panasonic cameras with $1,000 lenses. This is almost $3,000 worth of camera body and lens. And at 12 millimeters at f2.8, this is going to be significantly outperformed by a Vivo. Love it. I love it. And I love all the people that are going, oh, no, it's like a phone and people don't do things on their phones and it's phone photography. You're missing out on so much fun stuff. It really is a shame. It really is. It really sucks for you. Let me get this out of the way here. Man, I'm way behind on the chat. Sorry. Um, Hardware and code is so handy. Gary the Fireman, math is hard. Simon says, Hypno, will it work for cat pics? If so, can I borrow a cat? Cop of cash. But the benchmarks one? How can we know if you don't get the bigger benchmarks? It's not going to be a gooder enough phone unless the Geekbench score is really high, and you're going to miss out on some of the most stunning photography platforms capable today. Oh, it's just so gorgeous. Again, I'm just blown away by what we can achieve with a combination of radical hardware improvements. A 1-inch sensor in a phone is a radical, it's a substantial change in smartphone photography. And then to combine that with some of the sort of pixel level magic and some of the post-processing computational side of it is just, it's just absolutely incredible. It's just a beautiful thing to watch. LFA reviews Geekbench, sir. Or I mean, like watch it get just sort of like middling, or you know, like, oh, it's a very good camera, says DxO Mark. We shot full auto and didn't bother to test anything else on the camera, and it's sort of good. I'm telling you again, you have to have a reason to step up to $1,000 phone. It can't just be I got a big synthetic benchmark score. Like that doesn't do anything for you. And if you do, if you step up to a mega sensor phone, that is a good reason to step up to a more expensive device. If you're kind of fine in that casual point and shoot style, like you're not really trying to compose, you're trying to create, you just want to capture some family memories and you want it to be really easy, don't spend a lot. Get a Pixel 6a on sale. This thing dropped to what, $299? We were talking about whether or not we wanted to do Cyber Monday deals, but wasn't one of the Pixel sales like you could pick up a 6A for like 300 bucks? For 300 bucks, this is one of the best point and shoot camera experiences you can use today, and it definitely goes head to head with $800 iPhones. both in terms of processing power, performance, capabilities, like it's pretty close. The only thing on here is I still hate the 6A fingerprint sensor, but you know, it is what it is. It's a $300 phone on sale. If that's your jam, don't buy premium. But if you do buy premium, there are some really nice perks and benefits and reasons to spend that little bit of extra money. When I can displace the use of $3,000 worth of camera and lens and accessories, and I can go directly to a little phone in my pocket that is more discreet, that is quicker to use, and that I can edit the photos and videos directly on the camera. Because that's the other major benefit. I can shoot all this incredible footage from my Panasonics. I love my Panasonics. These are great cameras. I'm not trying to knock the cameras. But then if I'm on the go, I do this. Oh, and I don't even have the memory card in there because I took it out. And I have to pull out a memory card, and then I have to transfer that to a computer, and then I can work on my stuff. And then from that computer, it probably won't finish the project as fast as the phone that I shot footage from. It's, again, I cannot stress this enough. There is a revolution happening in smartphone optics, computational photography, practical photography, and working on that footage. Get an app like Photomate R3 and LumaFusion, and you have an incredible platform to edit RAW files, and RAW files that directly compete against Micro Four Thirds cameras. And from there, no, I need to point that out. I don't have my, do I have my Xiaomi here? I'm trying to do this without holding up the correct props. And I don't think my Xiaomi is in my bag. It might be downstairs. Again, sort of first world tech reviewer problems. No, I think yeah, I think it's in the other room. The crop factor on Micro Four Thirds is 2. It's a crop factor of 2. The crop factor on a Xiaomi 12S Ultra is 2.5. That's a pretty big jump, but it's a lot closer than people realize. Direct sensor to sensor, it's right on the heels. I can't. It's like I'm trying all of the ways that we would traditionally demonstrate this in photography, like your APS sensors, like crop factor of 1.6, and then Micro Four Thirds is a crop factor of 2, and now a phone has a crop factor of 2.5. It's so good. It's so good. Oh, Jay Severino. It would be really cool if the sensor supported 4K 120, because that is one of the other things that, like, my SIM card is in a Sony, and the main sensor on the Sony is not as nice as the main sensor on that Xiaomi. But I do loves me shooting, videos of my daughter running around parks and stuff 4K 120, because the slow motion is just brilliant. Again, so many fun things. Um, Dagon one. I mean, I'm gonna head over to your house right now. He says, "Hey, I just bought the Vivo X90 Pro Plus 12 gig, 512 gigs of storage. Are you excited to get it?" I'm fighting hard. I'm gonna reach out, and I'm not gonna be dignified about it, but I am gonna reach out to some of my PR contacts and say, like, so for the international release, am I gonna be able to play? Because I really like the Vivos. But yeah, I'm not pulling the trigger today because I still have a ton of work that I need to finish up. But man, the Vivo X90 is so on my radar. I'm very anxious to play with that phone. Gary the Fireman, yeah, the Pixel 6a is insane at $299. From Doulos, the Doulos the Prophet. I just bought LumaFusion this past weekend because of Juan's glowing reviews. Play with it, man. It is so much fun. You can shoot all of this incredible stuff and edit it directly in that moment. I did that little zoo trip. My daughter for Halloween, she's running around. She was in a costume. She was playing at the zoo. And every little clip, as soon as I was done shooting that clip, I could drop it into a video editing timeline. It was the thing I was holding up. If I had shot any of that from this camera, I would have had to have waited until I got home, transferred the memory card. It would have been hours after the fact. I'd have to look through all the footage, think like, oh, do I want this clip? Do I want that clip? I've got to put them all together. That's not a thing when you edit from your phone. You edit from your phone and you can immediately construct your final family project in the moment that you're shooting it. Nothing like that has ever existed before. This kind of mobile compute power. It's incredible. So you just put together a couple little like project files, keep a couple little templates, and you can so quickly staple something together, throw some music on it, finish the render, and before you've left the zoo, you have this perfect little family memory of hanging out. You can immediately go to share that with your family and friends, and it's awesome. It's so good. From Dave Burns, how does LumaFusion work in desktop modes? It's working pretty well. It formats better than PowerDirector was formatting. There are still some sticky bits. I feel like there definitely still needs to be some polish on Android for your track height. So on iOS, you can zoom laterally to zoom into the video that you're working on, but you can also zoom vertically to make individual tracks larger so that you can get a kind of a clearer idea of where you're putting your edits. We don't have that on Android. You don't have that sort of vertical pinch move. Some things like that would definitely help when you switch to a proper 16:9 view through a desktop mode, but actually resizing the windows and sort of working in PowerDirector on even the really crappy Android desktop mode has been brilliant. It's been fantastic. Duelos. Hey guys, can I play with you guys? Juan de Vivo. Again, I mean, I do have sort of a conversation going with Vivo about products and stuff going into 2023, but I'm going to be hitting the X90 pretty hard. Simon says, Hypno, I want to join the Vivo gang. Sad face. Don't be sad. Don't be sad. Even if you could pick up like an X70, you can find one for cheap and you could play with that. So much of what I like about what Vivo does well is even available in that phone. The first experiences I had with super fast night mode and super raw, the super raw DNG stacking is excellent. Just phenomenal, phenomenal camera performance. For Max geekness, Juan needs a clip-on belt holster for the phone. What I should do is get one of my mounts, so I can get one of these guys, like the little Ulanzi mount, and I can throw it on one of like the Peak Design plates, and then I can get that little clip holster that they have for cameras. You know, you've seen those. So like you have your shoulder sling, and I can just clip my phone directly into that, and then I can pop it off on the Ulanzi, and I can shoot, and then put it right back on my shoulder harness. So I don't even have to reach into my pocket to pull my phone out. That's gonna be the next upgrade for my phone photography. It's gonna be great. El Jefe reviews, they're good, man. So I don't have the second gen, but I've been using the first gen Vivo Buds for all of my live streaming. They're super comfortable. The ANC is solid. I really want to try and get my hands on whatever they come out with this year. The last year for the V2, I saw some nice little improvements, but yeah, I'm kind of curious to see what they play with for aptX Adaptive and for LDAC and these other codecs and stuff. So the Vivo Buds have been solid. I definitely recommend getting your hands on some, and they stay permanently connected to my PC. If I'm on a video call or if I'm on a live stream, if I'm jumping into a podcast or like a hangout with TK Bay, those are the only earbuds I leave connected to this PC. They're really good. So, getting kind of to the end here, getting to our last sort of 10 minutes, we haven't really talked much about like pricing, Cyber Monday, if people had found good deals. Sorry, I just got a weird notification on my phone and I didn't need to look at that, so apologies. I mean, there have been a few things that I've pulled up, and actually one of the sites that did a reasonably good job of tracking some of this stuff for Black Friday and Cyber Monday was Ars Technica. This podcast not brought to you by Ars Technica. I just really like their website. But I'm looking at some of these. Like here, let me throw up what what some of their sales and what some of their, again, I'm going to link to this in the show notes, so please support Ars Technica because they put this list together, not me. But a Nintendo Switch deal, like this sounds pretty good. You can get a Nintendo Switch plus Mario Kart 8 plus 3 months of Switch Online for $300, where normally all of that stuff together would be like $370. So I feel like that's a pretty good deal. Um, I can't say that like some of these sound great, but like Google Chromecast with Google TV, the 4K model, you can get for $29, where normally it sells for $60. AirPods Pro second generation for $249 with a $75 gift card from Apple, or they're $200 at Amazon. Which, if you're in the Apple ecosystem, as much as it pains me to say, Apple has made it really punitively difficult to use other nice earbuds with iPhones. And if you want the best synergy of earbud to phone, you kind of need to buy AirPods. I mean, that sucks if you don't want choice. But like $200 is kind of an okay price for the AirPods. I haven't been particularly impressed with their signal stability. They cut out a lot on me while I was test driving them for slick deals, and they didn't do auto pairing very well either. So especially on iOS 16, trying to get them to hook up and stay connected to an iPhone, it didn't just work. It was the least just workingness I'd ever experienced with an Apple product before. But if you can get them for like 50 bucks off, okay, I guess it's not terrible. Like, that's okay. One of the deals that I really liked, hold on, let me see if it's still on now. And apologies if you're coming to the audio podcast later, because a lot of these might have expired by the time you listen to the show. So I know this isn't the best audio podcasting, but the Anchor 757. Okay, it's still on a good deal. So this is the massive disaster backup battery that I did a collaboration with Anchor to talk about earthquake prep tech. And I was visiting relatives in Texas. Let me tell you, there were lots of conversations about some storms coming into the state of Texas and how to protect against power outages and ridiculous rate hikes for electricity in the great state of Texas. This was one of the things that I was pointing to. This is a 1,229 watt hour battery capable of 1,500 watt output. It's a chunky bugger. It's heavy. It's 44 pounds of battery cells, and it's awesome. We still have one in our home. We're using it as a UPS for my wife's office setup. It's great. It is a monster battery cells. Full retail, obviously, you would never really want to buy things like this at the full MSRP. But the full MSRP from Anchor is $1,400. And for the next 13 hours, it's going to be on sale for $980. So at that price, you could probably also grab a solar panel to go with it, because your solar panels that connect to these batteries are often, I don't know, roughly in the $200 to $300 price range for a good 200 watt collection of panels. 200 watt panels aren't going to charge us up fast, but in an emergency, like your power's been cut, you need to power like some type of appliance or medical equipment or even just your communications equipment. A 200 watt solar panel connected to a massive charged battery like this will keep you running for days. And doing some pretty high level stuff. Like, you need to keep stuff cold in the refrigerator. Like, this is gonna be big enough to power, I wanna say it powers our full size fridge. It can run the compressor for under 5 hours. So obviously your refrigerator doesn't run the compressor all the time. So if you can keep the doors closed and you can keep everything kind of relatively cool around it, that's a lot of use. That's a long time of operation, keeping a full-sized consumer appliance running like that. That was a pretty good one. I definitely check out some of the sales and some of the on this type of companion tech. I don't know that it's always the best time now to shop I mean, I guess if you wanted a phone, you can find some pretty good deals on phones and tablets and stuff. There was a good sale on the MacBook Pro. So the 14-inch M1 Pro MacBook Pro for $1,600. That was pretty good. Um, Google Pixel Watch. The Pixel Watch was on sale for $50 off. I think it's still on sale for about $50 off. And it's a little bit better buy at $300. I think it's still a little pricey compared to like I'm wearing my Mobvoi right now, but that's pretty good. $100 off a GoPro Hero 11. I just recently got the GoPro Hero 10. I purposely went one generation older, and this is still a little GoPro that shoots 4K at 120 frames per second. It doesn't shoot it for long. That does nuke this little GoPro battery, but all of my little cycling shots on my e-bike videos, I've been moving over to the GoPro Hero 10. I feel like that's a better buy than the GoPro Hero 11. Even at this like $150 off, I think I spent. Oh no, because I also got a 400 gig memory card to go with it. So I think I spent like I think I spent over $400 getting the Hero 10 with a 400 gig card at Costco. So I feel like that was a better buy for me. See, when you get into things like, so the Sony XM5s, I still have my XM4s over here. These are Sony Bluetooth headphones. I got these at half off. So I spent less than 250 getting, no, it was even less, it was less than that. What was it? No, it was less than 200. It wasn't quite 50% off. But anyway, so I got the XM4s for a ridiculously low cost. And that was just a couple months before the launch of the XM5s. Right now, the XM5s sell full retail for what? $400, and there's a sale that brings them down to $350. So like here again on the Ars Technica deal site. Like that's pretty good. I mean, the XM5s are great, and I want to support like some good Bluetooth, wireless, active noise canceling. They're great travel headphones. You want to keep things quiet on an airplane, and that's still a price well undercutting like AirPods Max for a better codec, LDAC, and really really good ANC. But at 350, that still doesn't feel like a tremendous sale. So again, it just kind of depends on where you want to put cash. Like if you need to buy some Bluetooth headphones and you're looking premium tier, then 350 is great. If you're a nerd like me and you already have some great solutions, and just recently I reviewed, oh, they're kind of buried on my shelf up there. If I try to pull them out, it's gonna knock a whole bunch of stuff over. But like the One More Sonoflows were really good, and they're like half the price of the Sony's on sale. So it's stuff like that. You're trying to move some things around, and you're like, okay, that's a good deal. Again, if you need to buy some headphones now, and you're shopping something like that, $50 off. $50 off a newer Bluetooth headset. Great, awesome. The XM4s are still really good. Oh, Dualos. Dualos says, I just bought that Nintendo Switch deal. That's great. I would probably have jumped on that if I weren't the proud owner of a Steam Deck. And man, if the Steam Deck hasn't been rocking my socks lately. I still feel like I kind of missed out by waiting. I kept waiting for a Switch Pro, and then that never really came. And now I'm kind of waiting again. If I want to get a Nintendo, I sort of want to wait until there's the next version of a Nintendo Switch out, a Switch 2, just a slightly more powerful version of that handset. Oh, see, El Jefe reviews. This stuff really bugs me. Same with Samsung. No app support on iOS for the Galaxy Buds 2 Pro. Stuff like that bugs me. I get it, but it bugs me. Isn't it also true that, is it on the Buds 2 Pro that their lossless codec won't even work with other Android devices? I Please correct me if I'm wrong, but I do not want to support earbuds that only give you full quality if you pair them with one manufacturer's phone. because I have numerous earbuds in front of me that support LDAC and LHDC and aptX HD and aptX Adaptive, and I don't want Samsung earbuds that only work with Samsung phones. I think that's bad. Bray Gray, I'm still on the GoPro Hero 8 and it's perfectly fine. Yeah, I am I'm a big fan of the Hero 10. Yeah, I think like yeah, I've already kind of gone through that. Ooh, Woot had an open box Sony XM5 for 268. They sold out quick, but I think JoJo the Techie snagged a set. Okay, when we're talking like under 300, I don't know how I feel about open box. I get real persnickety, but that's also kind of a trend in good sales that I think that could be pretty solid. Doulos the Prophet, a Steam Deck, you say? Whatever could that be? It's this amazing kitchen gadget. So I don't know if you guys like steamed buns, but it's this deck, and that you put your sort of assorted buns and pastries into one of those little like, is it bamboo? I think they're made out of bamboo. So you put it on there, and you definitely have to fill it up. It's a little like a rice cooker, but it steams in a very small sort of footprint. It's a deck that steams your buns. It's amazing. It's completely changed my life, and I can't recommend it enough. It's pretty great. Oh yeah, Jeff. Sorry, it's such a lame joke, and I'm gonna keep telling it because I love my Steam Deck. Correct. Samsung scalable codec is Samsung only. Oh, that's lame. I really don't like that. I really don't. And especially if you could like install support with an app or do something else to kind of help manage that, but making it proprietary like that is so frustrating. Especially Qualcomm. The newest version of Snapdragon Sound and aptX Adaptive is going to be on Bose. You've got a really good headphone option to pair with a newer phone, even from a premium phone of this last year. And aptX Adaptive is good. It's really good. My little Bluetooth DACs, like I've got the FIO BTR7. I've got, where's my Griffin? Oh no. Oh, it's right here. Whew. My iFi. This is such a beautiful piece of portable audio hardware, and I love it so much. This is supporting LDAC and aptX Adaptive. It's bad. It's real bad form to try and make a proprietary wireless codec in Android land right now, because all I'm going to do is recommend heavily against getting locked into the Samsung ecosystem. Go do any of these others and have incredible audio experiences with really nice headphones and earbuds. You'll still save money over being locked into an ecosystem, and it's still incredibly high quality playback. Mwah. Jeff, steamed buns? Pause. Pause, sir. Actually, now, I mean, because like I don't eat breakfast in the mornings, or we're getting to 11 o'clock here in the AM, and you're like, man, I really need to find a good like it's like a really good Japanese restaurant near me. There isn't anything in my little corner of suburbia. And I could murk someone right now for a good sukiyaki, just like a big old bowl of Japanese comfort food. Oh, but and also like they make some those little buns and they're delicious and I need them. Sigh, let's sigh. Excuse me. Let me take one more drink of water and we can kind of just peruse the last couple deals here on this Ars Technica link. Okay, I just want to show off these last ones. Some okay TV deals, but I always get nervous about Cyber Monday and Black Friday televisions being alternate SKUs. So this one to me is always a buyer beware. Like make sure you're doing your research on what model of television you want. And especially if you're buying it through like a Target, a Best Buy, or a Walmart, make sure you're getting the actual product number, the product SKU that you want, and it's not a variation on the SKU, because then you end up with those like poorer built or they have fewer connectors. Like, oh, it's an amazing deal. It's like, you know, a third the price, but then it's not really the same TV. And that's the kind of stuff that always kind of makes me nervous about jumping too hard into Black Friday sales. Is you go to the shop and you're like, oh, this is an amazing buy on a television. Then you try to look up the SKU. You're like, this TV doesn't really exist. It only existed as a cheap way to get people into Target to try and buy other things in addition to this like poorly built, almost disposable television. I know TCL recently put out some new models in the 6 series. They're really nice and they're not crazy expensive, all the way up to 85-inch displays with their newest bleeding edge tech for high refresh rate, AMD FreeSync, HDR10 plus capable. They're monster televisions. So don't go with the TCL big screen. I forget what they call it. They've got the 4 series, the 6 series, and then like the Premier series. The Premier series are actually a little older and they're more expensive. The 6 series are monster buys right now. Again, in TCL being a good like Vizio style bang for buck kind of television, I'm on hashtag Team TCL, you know, full FTC disclosures. I really like the 6 series. It is a solid buy. Again, a Sony Bravia, a Samsung, an LG probably outperform it in all of those clinical tests that you can run on color accuracy and tone mapping and depth and frame rates and blah 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 blah. But a TCL at like half the price is like 85% of the performance for way less monies. What were some of the other ones? Here, let me pull this up. Yeah, the Sony Bravias are on some decent sales. Like their 55-inch 4K. Oh wait, that's a Samsung. Sorry, their $1,000 A9s down to $800. What was the other one that I was looking at? Oh, the LG. So it's a 48-inch 4K OLED, down $400. So from $1,400 to $1,047. That's a pretty good buy. I have not been a huge fan of Samsungs lately. My last Samsung television was a very poor experience. But if you were shopping a Samsung, we're getting a couple okay deals. Basically, it looks like most of the mainstream OLEDs and QLEDs from Samsung are about $200 off. So what is this? This is 1998 down to 1798, and then oh, this one's a little bit better. So they're 4K QLED with Alexa built in. That seems silly. Normally $2,800 down to $2,400. So that's pretty good. That's an 85-inch TV for $2,400. That's not bad. Some of the laptop deals, Surface Pro 9, 13-inch tablet. This is the Core i5, 16 gigs of RAM, 256 gigs of storage, is $1,100 at Costco, where it's normally $1,300 full price. The Laptop Go 2, starting at $500, they're all $100 off. I gotta tell you, that little Laptop Go 2 is a beautifully built student grade computer. It really is one of the prettiest and one of the nicest student, lower cost, mid-range consumer machines that I've ever played with. It is a little more expensive than a lot of competing Chromebooks for a Core i5, but nothing has been built quite as nice as that Laptop Go 2. Again, when it starts at $500, I would recommend climbing to the medium tier. I don't think the highest tier Laptop Go 2 makes sense, but if you go to the medium tier, I think that's the one that gets you a little bit more RAM. It's not close. I mean, you can get some cheaper Chromebooks, but they're not going to be built anywhere near as nice as a Surface laptop. An okay sale on the Razer Blade 14. That's down $2,000. It's down to $2,000 from $2,400. That has an AMD Ryzen 9 5900HX with an RTX 3080. That's a pretty beefy machine. That's pretty solid. And then lots of like storage sales too. Like I've been playing with a bunch of these little SanDisk SSDs, and where do they have the SanDisk V2 2 terabyte version? So I have the 1 terabyte version, and when I got it, I got this one almost 2 years ago now. I got it on sale for $120 for the 1 terabyte model. And like, I haven't seen any sales near that until now. The 2 terabyte model of this is now on sale for 145. So you could get the 1 terabyte model that I have for $100, or you could double the storage for $45 more. These little SanDisks have been great. I now have 3 of them, and I'm starting to get them for project archiving. So I've been writing like in Sharpie little things on the back. So I've sort of slowed down. I don't know if I'm going to be doing any work with reviews.org in the future. I have my entire archive of work with reviews.org on a little zipped up on a little SanDisk SSD, and I can just leave it, and it's fine. And it's not like a spinning disk hard drive that I have to worry about like the platters seizing up or anything. So getting a 1 terabyte for $100 is pretty good. I think that's kind of it. I haven't seen any crazy great, like on the Fitbit, Apple Watch, Garmin's, those types of fitness trackers and watches. I would seriously look at Amazfit and Mobvoi if you're looking for good sales. Pixel 6a was $299. Pixel 6 for $390. That was an Amazon and a Best Buy deal. That's pretty good. Pixel 7 for $499 is maybe even better. $500 for a Pixel 7 is just an incredible buy. And 7 Pro for $750 is not terrible either. I said it was an $800 phone. I meant $800 on sale. And then, OnePlus 10 Pro for $550. That's also pretty good too. It's been very well behaved with these most recent updates. And for anyone who was really concerned about like, the Snapdragon 8 Gen 1, it's too hot. Like, you can manage quite a bit of that. I know they've had to kind of back off some of their gaming performance because of stuff like that. OnePlus phones cap you at 60 frames per second, regardless of what game you're playing. And that can be really frustrating when you know that the phone is more powerful than that. But outside of that, the user experience has been really good. They have done a really good job of managing that hardware and software synergy. So again, I'm going to put a link in the show notes. I think a lot of these things will probably have expired after today. This is our last real day, the Cyber Monday day, to go out there and do our real shopping for deals and tech and stuff like that. But in here, you got to do a lot of digging. There are a couple pretty decent sales that you can work. I just don't think any of them have been mind-blowing, right? Like, I'm pointing out some of these sales. Like this little SanDisk. I bought it almost 2 years ago for $20 more than it's selling today. And it is the V2. So, I bought it when the V2 was brand new. That's I can save another $20. That's good. That's really good. But it's not like, oh my gosh, mind-blowing. I'm so upset that I bought this 2 years ago for $20 more because I've been using it for 2 years, almost 2 years. And it's been really good. So those types of things, like, I think that's the perspective that kind of gets me about Black Friday, is we're promoting it as like the most amazing sales of the year. But throughout the year, I think we've been pretty close to some of these sales. So you shouldn't feel too bad. Like if you bought a Pixel 6a, like I remember it getting cut to like $350 not that long ago. Are you really going to be that upset if you spent $50 more on a almost $400 phone? I don't feel like this one is going to really rock your socks. But if you're buying a phone right now, it's a good time to get phones from the beginning of the year at some significant savings. $550 for a OnePlus 10 Pro is shockingly good for that price performance. And the Moto Edge Plus snorkel, absolutely. $499. $499. That is a 512 gigabyte phone with active pen stylus support. And it's not that they sell a 512 gig version of this phone. They only sell a 512 gigabyte version of this phone. And I can't say enough nice things. The Moto has been one of the most powerhouse productivity options of the year. This phone is a monster. It will do what you ask it to do. It might run warm. You might nuke your battery, but if you're a grown up and you can handle that, it's incredible that it is a pocket laptop that's just eager to get work done. For $499, that's insane. That is stupid performance. LFA reviews. This is the note we're gonna end up on. Jeff, you are closing out my show because I feel you, brother. I feel you on this. Those 20 to 40% discounts are rookie numbers. Bring me those 75% off discounts. And on that note, I don't have anything else to say. Folks, there was a lot of really just downer news in the tech sphere this week. And I needed that swift kick in the head, that other perspective of spending some time with family and getting out of the gadget lab and sharing, again, the playfulness of getting to share some ridiculous tech. You know, putting AR glasses on my mom and on my dad to play arcade games on a Steam Deck. That is ridiculous privilege. That is something insane that most average consumers won't have access to probably for years before these things are a little bit more commonplace. But getting to show people like there are these fun things. There are gadgets on the horizon, stuff to keep your eye on, reasons why you might want to buy a new gadget in the near future. That kind of stuff really does kind of help spark some of the joy. Not to go on like Marie Kondo on you, but like, is this instilling joy, or are we just crabby about it and it's another thing that we have to take care of and it's expensive and it jacks up my monthly cell phone bill? But showing, not telling, showing like this is a thing. Keep your eye out for this thing. So for all of the crazy deals on Cyber Monday and Black Friday, I would also like to extend, I think this is the best time of year to take a look at the phone that you currently own. And let's say that phone is even like 2 or 3 years old. Don't get too angsty about flipping it. If you've got a 2 or 3 year old Android, yeah, these new phones are demonstrably more powerful. You are not slow in any way, shape, or form. I can take this back to a Snapdragon 845, and you still have higher tier performance than any newer mid-ranger phone that's coming out today. You're still in great shape on an LG G7. I mean, you're still in great shape today, right now, for high-level computing on a Galaxy S9. You are not missing the experience. There are just some things that are nicer if you can buy expensive today. Plus, you also lose a bunch of things because if you have a Snapdragon 845 or a Snapdragon 855, you probably still have a headphone jack and a memory card support that we don't always get unless you have a Sony today. So, to this right now, in the spirit of Black Friday, in the spirit of Cyber Monday, look at what you would have spent on a new phone. Look at how much it would have increased your monthly bill if you're on some kind of leasing plan or payment plan. And instead, call up a local repair shop and say, hey, I've got an LG G7, I've got a Galaxy S9, I've got a Galaxy S10. What is it going to cost to pop in a new battery? Treat yourself to some longer, nice USB-C cables. I've got the Nomad cable, 3-meter cable. It's so silly. It's a $50 cable. It's changed my life. I can keep it by the bedside table. I'm not like tethered this like 1.5-foot USB cable to a charger. It's awesome. Look at all, like, get yourself a new case. Get yourself a new screen protector. Get yourself like a little camera tripod so you can prop your phone up and use it for video calls and then turn around and take a nicer family portrait, set it on the dining room table. Get yourself like a little, I've got a little Gorilla Pod. So this is a ridiculous setup where I got a Gorilla Pod with a Ulanzi phone mount and a Ulanzi quick release plate. So I can pop immediately off and I can go and put this on a Peak Design tripod because I'm shooting so much from phones and not from full-sized cameras anymore. It was like I think with the plate and the connector and the mount, the plate and the mount, I want to say it was like $50. And then it goes on a little gorilla pod, and I can move it from gorilla pod to tripod to a proper mount like I use for my live streams here. And it's awesome. This is so much fun. Like $50 worth of little camera accessories. So much fun. And I feel like now is that perfect time. Instead of spending $1,000 on a new smartphone, maybe you only need to spend like $200 on some fun accessories, and you'll get a whole world of new use out of the gadgets you already own. If you want to get fancy, like look at what you would have spent on a brand new, like next year's Galaxy S23. Probably going to start at like $800 to match up with the iPhone. It's probably not going to be a radical departure from the Galaxy S22 if we're being frank. So take $400 instead and get a nice display that you can use with other accessories, or I mean with other computer gadgets. Like a portable monitor is huge. Get yourself a little Bluetooth folding mouse and keyboard, and you've got a productivity workspace that will work on a Galaxy S10 with DeX. I mean, like, there's so many fun things that we haven't been doing. It's I think now is a really good time to kind of check in, and say like this is maybe a more fun way to spend money, instead of like buying a new phone and then you have to get a new case for it and you have to get like a screen protector and there aren't a lot of other accessories for it. You know, get some more life out of what you currently own, and then you'll have good accessories to move into the next phone purchase whenever you feel like you need to pull the trigger on it. But maybe what you need isn't a new phone. Maybe what you need is just a new battery, and your phone performance is going to go right back up to when you had it brand new. So, Kenox Ulanzi, Ulanzi. I'm not sure if they have like a dashboard mount, for a vehicle mount. I'd have to look into that. They're making more sort of content creator tripod types of accessories. Their new tripod looks really good. It looks like kind of a clone of the Peak Design, super portable tripod. Where is my Peak Design? Oh, it's over here. So this teeny little Peak Design tripod is like, again, it's just a portable thing that's changed my life, but I'm shooting on phones a lot with this tripod. They're making a clone of this that I kind of want to try because it's cheaper for carbon fiber than the Peak Design is for aluminum. Because I'm real anxious about my pack and carry weight. But I don't know if they make vehicle mounts. So you can definitely check that out. But they make all of these little plates and adapters. And I've bought a bunch of these plates and adapters for my cameras and my phone, so I can quickly move from between different tripods, and everything kind of works together. So that's one of the cool things about what they've done as a low-cost photography accessory brand, is they've kind of better made accessories work between different mounts and platforms. So anyway, folks, I went way long and I need to eat. So I'm going to put a pin in this now. Thank you so much for dropping by. Thank you so much for jumping in. I appreciate all of the chatter and everyone who's been in the chat and supporting the podcast. Again, as we get to the end of the year, as content creators are just like working like crazy, please take that time to support your favorite content creators. Sharing on social media, upvoting on Reddit. If you choose to use my subreddit, we can always use more submissions, more comments, more upvotes, and it helps popularize content with search algorithms, and it helps bring more audience to these content creators that we want to see thrive. We want to see them do more work. We enjoy their work. We need to act in supporting it. It's not enough just to passively consume. We have to support and share. And every single time you see someone put out a bad faith hot take, every single time you see someone gin up a controversy that really doesn't exist, every time you share that content, it reinforces a business model getting us more content we don't want. Every time you see someone do something purposely just to make people frustrated or make people angry, I would ask instead, you go to an El Jefe Reviews, You go to a Barry Johnson, a Gadget Goddess, a LaShawn, holla at your boy, an Easy Computer Solutions, a TK Bay, a Hugh Jeffries, a Gary Explains, a Tech Potato. These channels that are really solid in the middle range, share their content instead. Hey, I just saw a terrible hot take article from a massive publication that really frustrated me, but instead of driving more traffic to that website and making them more money through my outrage, I'm gonna share a video from TK Bay, who breaks down this really awesome thing that he's doing on his phone, and I wanna support a better conversation. You have that power, and you have that power to spread the message and explain why you're sharing that video. Not just, oh, I like this video from TK Bay, you should watch it. I can't tell you the kind of engagement I get when I say, someone pissed me off. And instead of sharing what pissed me off, I'm gonna share something that I think matters more. And people click in. Your social media shares get promoted. Your upvotes start mattering more on Reddit. It is a wonderful feeling. I cannot undersell how nice it is to take outrage traffic away from bad faith editorialists in our tech space and promote someone I think is doing something better. You can do it. You have that power. Or you can keep promoting crap content that is making you upset and is making you frustrated and it's bad for your mental health. It's a very clear choice to me what I would choose to support. So folks, I want you all to have an amazing week. We're getting through the holidays. I hope you're getting to spend some time with family. I hope you're getting to spend some time with friends. This stuff really matters, that you take care of yourself physically and mentally. Yeah, I hope you have those opportunities ahead of you. So like always, thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you so much for all the support and the sharing, like I said before. And I want you all to have an amazing week. I want you to do awesome with your technology. I want you to be awesome with your technology. I'll catch you all back here next week for another episode of the Monday Morning Tech Chat Show on the SGGQA podcast channel. Be safe, take care, and take care of yourself so you can take care of others. And I'll catch you back. I love you all.